not really good with time management. In an ideal world, I would plan, write, and edit my videos at least 1 week before the posting date. But the reality is that I decide what the current week's video is gonna be about around Thursday, watch the movies on Friday, write it and record it on Saturday, and edit on Sunday. And this week wasn't different. On Thursday I thought, there's this new Pixar movie, Soul. Maybe I could talk about it in this week's video. And so I watched the movie on Friday. Later that night, I was already going to bed when I remembered WandaVision had premiered on Disney+. I was super tired, but for some reason I decided to watch the first episode. As I watched it, I kept remembering Soul, and I couldn't stop tracing a parallel between the two. And at first they might seem like two complete different pieces of work, but they both got me thinking about the same subject, the refusal to grow up. Soul is one of those Pixar animations that seems made for kids, but actually is made for adults. I'm not saying the movie doesn't work for children, it's just that they won't see it as the super deep experience adults will. Soul talks about very mature themes, like where do we come from, where do we go after we die, and what's our purpose here on Earth. Kids might find it funny or entertaining, but adults will end the movie with an existential crisis. Having a healthy relationship with your inner self, your beliefs, motivations, and passions is really hard. Children normally don't have such profound doubts when it comes to such aspects of life. Why am I here? I don't know, but Brett got a sick new Hot Wheels track, so I'm going to his house later. They might get curious about where do babies come from, but that's kind of it. But adults need more detailed explanations to these questions. Why am I here? Am I just an intergalactic accident? Or am I a creation of a god? Or maybe a group of gods? And finding concrete answers is, well, pretty much impossible. You might have been raised in a religious family and be taught that you were a creation of God. You might be raised an atheist or without specific beliefs. But when you grow up, you will almost inevitably question your own beliefs. That has happened with humans since we can think, basically. That's why kids' animations that are actually made for adults have become so popular recently. And that's where the problem is. Well, kind of. The problem is in the way that most grown-ups deal with such themes. A kids' movie about these themes is great and very necessary, but to explain such themes to kids, not adults. Sure, creating a ludic visual representation of the great before can be great to explain very complex subjects to children. And Pixar creates a word and a concept that is broad enough so that adults can mold it and use it to explain their beliefs. Sure, using Inside Out to explain depression to children is great. The movie has an easy, digestible story that can help children to deal with their emotions. But that's it. Don't treat Pixar movies as representations for adults. As an adult, you need to understand that depression is much more complex than Inside Out shows, and that life, death, and questions like where do we come from and what's my purpose here cannot be explained in a satisfactory way by a 90-minute animated movie, at least not for adults. Growing up and living in the real world is not easy, and no one said it was, but we must face the real world as it is. And you shouldn't take my word for it. After all, I'm no authority in the matter at all. I'm only 21 years old. But you should listen to Alan Moore talk about it.
I have a feeling that the current tsunami of American superhero movies is really not doing our culture any good at all. And I would only note that 2016, the year in which Britain voted for Brexit and in which America elected what appears to be a gigantic Nazi Satsuma, 6 of the 12 biggest grossing films were superhero movies. This is bad news for culture. If we've got this infantilization, if we've got this refusal to grow up, a refusal to take responsibility for the adult world in which we all find ourselves taking part, and yes, this is a very complex world and it is scary, and none of us wants to admit that we are now the generation that is in charge of it.
And then we have Marvel movies. I won't lie, I like Marvel movies. I'm not crazy about them, but I watched all of them and liked most of them. And that's fine. But we'd have to acknowledge that this insane amount of superhero movies are not good for our society and our culture. You might remember when in 2019, Martin Scorsese said in an interview to Empire magazine, "I don't think they are cinema," when referring to Marvel movies. A ton of people interpreted this as an offense, as an attempt to diminish the work of actors, directors, and other professionals that worked in Marvel movies. Scorsese later explained his opinion, and I quote, "In many places around this country and around the world, franchise films are now your primary choice if you want to see something on the big screen. It's a perilous time in film exhibitions, and there are fewer independent theaters than ever. The equation has flipped and streaming has become the primary delivery system. Still, I don't know a single filmmaker who doesn't want to design films for the big screen, to be projected before audiences in theaters. That includes me, and I'm speaking as someone who just completed a picture for Netflix. I have a theatrical window, which is great. Would I like the picture to play on more big screens for longer periods of time? Of course I would. But no matter whom you make your movies with, the fact is that the screens in most multiplexes are crowded with franchise pictures. And if you're gonna tell me that it's simply a matter of supply and demand and giving to people what they want, I'm going to disagree. It's a chicken and egg issue. If people are giving only one kind of thing and endlessly sold only one kind of thing, of course they're going to want more of that one kind of thing. We are constantly bombarded with superhero movies, and if you want to go to a movie theater nowadays, your options are very limited. I watched all of Marvel's movies, but I didn't watch them as they were released. No, I watched them all in about a month, in preparation to Avengers Endgame. I knew that when Endgame premiered in cinemas, that was going to be pretty much my only option for the next few weeks. So I forced myself to watch all other Marvel movies so that I could be a part of that group experience. Everyone would go to the movie theaters and watch and later talk about it in social networks. I had seen this happen 1 year before with Avengers Infinity War, and I was not a part of it. And it sucked. It's not that I didn't like the movies. Again, they were fun to watch. But the reality is that I probably wouldn't watch them under normal circumstances. There's a ton of people out there that watched Marvel movies for the same reason. There's definitely a lot of Marvel fans that are only Marvel fans because of peer pressure and lack of other options. And now we get back to what Alan Moore said. Superhero comics are made for children. You can read it, you can watch the movies, but you need to have that in mind. It's a product made for children or teens. Just like how I love Jim Carrey's Grinch. It's based on a child's book, but I love it. The problem is when we start considering and interpreting them as fictional products for adults. And even worse, when we start revolving our lives around them. We need to be aware of the nature of such works, and we need to understand that debating the color of a character's uniform in an adaptation is not an important discussion. And actually, WandaVision, the newest Marvel TV show, can teach us this. I am not an expert when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so pardon me if I make a mistake, but then again, debating this isn't really important. In the latest movies of the MCU, Vision dies, and Wanda is obviously shaken by this, and that's where WandaVision begins. There are a ton of theories on the internet about this, but the most accepted one is that Wanda created a unique reality, where she lives inside of a 50s sitcom with Vision. She's happy there, she can live a peaceful life with the person that she loves the most. I mean, machine, I guess. God, that's weird. Anyway, she creates a bubble and refuses to go back to the regular world. She chooses, consciously or unconsciously, to live in a matrix, per se. And when signals and people from the outer world try to reach her, she refuses to listen to them or to leave this reality. And to me, that's what most Marvel fans are doing. They live in a reality where actual, real problems aren't important. What's important is how his favorite character is portrayed in cinema. Politics, rise of neo-fascist movements, or negationism and anti-science, those aren't important subjects. What's really important is that they chose a black actor to play my favorite superhero, and that's just outrageous. But now I want to hear about your thoughts on the matter. Tell me your opinions in the comments section, and let's have a healthy debate. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like down below, that helps me a lot, and subscribe to my channel as well. You can also help me by sending this video to your friends that spend days in forums online talking about the color of Captain Marvel's uniform. In the description, you'll also find my Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram. Consider following me there as well. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week.